Hey guys, it's Mac again, and welcome back to my channel. I really appreciate you joining me today. In today's video, I'm going to show you the first thing that you need to do to your Benelli M2 shotgun when you get it home from the gun shop. Take it out of the case, put it together, and then immediately get rid of that factory forked Benelli lifter and replace it with an Accuguide lifter from Taran Tactical Innovations. We're going to install one coming up. Installation of the Taran Tactical Innovations Accuguide lifter is fairly straightforward, and you should be able to complete this in about 10 minutes with a fairly simple set of hand tools. After first making sure that your shotgun is safe, as always, you'll want to remove your trigger group from the shotgun by pushing out the retaining pin through the receiver. Now, as you can see here, I've already had this Accuguide lifter installed in my shotgun, so I'm going to remove it to simulate removing the forked lifter and just reinstall it. Here you can see the difference between the two lifters. The first step to removing the lifter is to remove the carrier spring plunger and the plunger spring from the left side of the trigger group. As you'll see, there's a small O-ring that retains the plunger in the rearmost portion of it. You want to make sure that you don't lose this, so set it aside. The carrier spring plunger sits on the back of the bolt latch, and this is the vertical portion that you see. Next, you'll want to remove a small C-clip from the left side of the trigger pin bushing. Now be really careful not to lose this. I find the easiest way to remove it is to keep my finger over the flat side of it and simply lift it up with a small flathead screwdriver. And once you lift that C-clip off of the trigger pin bushing, make sure that you set it aside in a location where you can find it. Now, Taran Tactical is really good about including more of these in case you lose one, but you want to make doubly sure that you keep up with this piece. Make sure that your hammer has been decocked. That'll make it easy for you to remove the hammer spring and the hammer spring end cap. Once these have been removed, you can simply pull the trigger pin bushing out the right side of the trigger group. Set aside your hammer, and then the last piece that you need to remove is the shell latch or the shell release lever. Now, there is a small spring on the rearmost portion of it that I'll show in just 1 minute. Once you pop the lifter off of the trigger group, the bolt latch and latch pin will likely fall off. Pay attention to how the latch pin was oriented inside the lifter. Now here you can see the spring that goes on the shell latch that I was mentioning earlier. You're going to have to make sure that you get this reinstalled properly when you're done with this installation, so pay attention to the orientation. Reassembly of this is just exactly the opposite of disassembly. The first thing you'll want to do is install your bolt latch and latch pin onto your lifter, and then slide the lifter onto the trigger group. Careful to align the holes. The next piece that you'll need to add on is the shell latch. You'll do that to the right side of the trigger group by aligning the holes. Now, you don't need to align the shell latch spring at this point because you can do it at the end of the installation. Then simply slide your trigger pin bushing in the right side, and then you'll have to do a little bit of wiggling back and forth to get all the holes lined up. Next, put your hammer back into the center of your trigger group, making sure that you orient it the proper way. And then you'll need to reinsert the hammer spring and the hammer spring end cap and keep it captured while you continue to reassemble the trigger group. Now be careful, this spring does have a fair amount of tension in it when you compress it, so make sure you're not pointing it toward your face and that you're wearing safety glasses. A little bit of wiggle back and forth, and a little bit of test fitting, and you should be able to continue to advance the trigger pin bushing all the way back across the trigger group. And I found that the easiest way to keep the hammer spring captured is just to recock the hammer once you've got the trigger pin bushing completely through the hammer. At this point, you can reinstall the small C-clip back onto the left side of the trigger pin bushing. The easiest way to do this is to put the flat side inside the notch on the trigger pin bushing, and then I like to put my thumb or my finger over the top of the spring so that it doesn't pop away and I lose it. And I'll just push it back down with my flathead screwdriver. Now you can see at this point that you can simulate the function of the lifter. The last two things that you're going to need to do is to reposition the spring on the shell latch. Now this is not a typically round or cylindrical spring. This is more of a long S-shaped spring, and you do need to pop it over the edge of the shell latch with a flathead screwdriver. The last, and what I found to be most aggravating part of reassembling this, is getting the carrier spring plunger back onto the bolt latch. You need to insert the rearmost portion of it through the hole in the O-ring and then just slide it down the carrier spring plunger and pop it into the appropriate position. Then when you're finally finished, just check function of every part of the trigger group to make sure that it all still works, and then you can reinstall the trigger group and lifter back into your shotgun. Hopefully that install video was helpful. If you're going to shoot your Benelli N2 in 3-gun competition and reload shells quickly, you have to get an extended lifter. Now you can send it off to be welded, but I found that the Accuguide lifter from Taran Tactical is far better than all others. It's really high quality, and I would never shoot a Benelli M2 without one of these installed. Once again, thanks for watching, and I'd like to encourage you to subscribe to my channel. You can do that by clicking on the video on the upper left. As a subscriber, you'll be immediately notified every time I upload a video on a weekly basis. And these videos include guns and gear reviews, as well as content that's always related to 3-gun. And also, to watch more of my most popular videos, click on the video on the lower left. Once again, this is Mac. As always, be safe out there, and we'll see you next time.